Good morning. Morning, everybody, and welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. Okay. Welcome to everybody here in Shalom, everybody in Torah Anytime, Kol HaLashon, and to everybody in our YouTube channel. We are in Maseches Bava Metzia. Bava Metzia. Which daf are we on? Remind me. Are we in Study Ches Amud Beis? Good. Study Ches Amud Beis by the Mishnah. Very good. Study Ches Amud Beis in the bottom of the page of the Mishnah. It's all marked, and I think we can just begin. The Shiur is Lilu Nishma Sovimori Menachem Ben Akiva, Rus Bas Shalom Sobas Moshe, and Rochel Bas Avrom, and Henyeresha Bas Elchonon Yitzchok, Lerafos Gabriel Tzvi Ben Keren, Chaim Ben Seta, Aviva Bas Devoiro, Besoch Shachol Yisrael, Chana Batzima, Besoch Shachol Yisrael. Ashoy Lesaporo. Let me ask you the following question. What happens when a person borrowed an item from his friend and the item, all of a sudden, let's say it's a cow, it's always a cow, let's stay with a cow. You borrowed a cow from your friend, you need to plow your field. How else would you plow your field? Yeah. And then what happened? The cow died unexpectedly, boom, Cham just, left and gave its soul back to the creator, to its maker. So who has to pay? Does anybody has to pay? Anybody has to pay? The Shiur has to pay. Oinsim, very nice. What about when the mash'il, the lender owner, lives in Metula, and the borrower lives in Afakim? Is Metula and Afakim, are they close to each other? Israeli geography? Not really. Metula is very much in the north, and Afakim is pretty much to the south, not to the. So now, if he lives in Metula and the other one lives in Afakim, both of them are very, very busy people. So they have to send messengers. In other words, the person owning the cow lives up north. The person who wants to borrow the cow lives down south. And now on the way, the cow on its way from Metula to Ofakim, from the house of the Mash'il to the house of the Shoyel, dropped dead. Boom, pop. Yeah. So then the question is, what happens? Is it considered to be in the domain of the Shoyel already? And therefore the Shoyel would have to already pay? Or do we say, no, it's not yet by the domain of the Shoyel, so never reached his hands. So if he died too early, he doesn't have to pay. Or maybe there's a factor, maybe sometimes this and sometimes that. What would you say? We have here Reb Tzvi saying, depends who the agent is representing. Yeah. In other words, whoever is taking it, whoever is carrying it, the van driver, yeah, whoever, is he a shaliach of the mashil? And then it didn't halachically yet reach the domain of the shoyel and the bipoter. But if the van driver came, generally speaking, is a shliach, the halachic shliach of the shoyel, yeah, and right. So once he loads the cow into his truck, then is the shliach of the shoyel. Oh, that is a simple answer. We're going to see here 4 different scenarios. We're going to have a reisha with 2 cases and a seifa with 2 cases. Says the Heilige Mishnah. Ashoy Saporo b'sholcho loy, which means that the mash'il sent to the shoyel biad bnoi, biad avdoi, biad shluchoi of the mash'il. In other words, the mash'il sent one of his people, either his son, his eved. We'll see what that means soon. What kind of eved? Biad shluchoi, his messenger, his halachic messenger. So we assume he sent it by one of his people. What would you say? The halacha is that he died on the way. Potter. It's still, it never really left the domain of the mashil. All these people are the longer arm of the mashil. Oi, or biad bnoi, biad avdoi, biad shluchoi shel shoyel, v'meisa potu. Wow, listen to this. If the shoyel sent one of his people, either his son, his eved, or his shliach, he sent them, and they're seemingly his shlichim, and the cow died on the way, he's still potur. Excuse me, short circuit. So in general, I'll tell you before we continue, yes, you don't faint. In general, all these people are not halachic shlichim. There's shliach and there's shliach. I'm thinking to myself the formula, not every messenger is a shliach. Not every marriage is kiddushin. You have all kinds of marriages nowadays, all kinds of funny things. They're not kiddushin. In other words, these 3 people that were unofficially, unhalachically sent by the shoyel, yeah, they're just nice guys who are doing him a favor, and they're technically taking it from the hands of the mashil because they happen to go to Metula on vacation, Ben Azmanim. So they said, if you don't mind, bring me the cow. But yeah, it says the word shliach. One of those three is called shliach. So it's a machloikis in the Gemara in a few places. And in general, I'll give you one answer. It's really not a halachic shliach. It's a nice guy who does a favor to him, but he never said to him, you be my halachic shliach. And therefore, even though he was sent by him, he did not become his halachic shliach. And as it's going to be accentuated in the Seifa. Now you'll get it much better when you see the Seifa. Seifa are two opposite cases. Omar loy hashoyel. The shoyel told the mashil, sholchali or shilchali. Oh, he said the magic word, shilchali. Send it to me halachically. Be'ad bni, be'ad avdi, be'ad shluchi. Send me the cow as a shlichus. I want to apply shlichus over here. Even if it's done by one of your people, I want to use one of your family or your workers or your shlichim or even your eved to be my agent, the halachic agent called shliach. Oh, excuse me, no. In other words, the shah says my own. What I said is right, but that's the next case. Either the shah said send it by one of my people, that's clear. Or what I accentuated now is the next case. Or biad bincho biad avdecho biad shluchecho. Or that's what I meant before. I want one of your guys to be my shliach. That could be. Your son is a very nice boy. Your shliach, your eved, your ever. I want a kilu, says the Ritva, take over. And I want to make them temporarily my halachic shlichim. Or another case, even more of a chiddush, she'omer loy hamashil, the mashil, the lender is the one who initiated the conversation. And he said, Hareini meshalcho lecho, I'm hereby sending you be'ad bni, be'ad avdi, be'ad shluchi, with one of my people, my son, my eved, or my messenger. Oy be'ad bincho, be'ad avdecho, be'ad shluchicho. I, says the mesholeach, I'm sending to you one with one of my people, one of your people. The Omer lahashoyel shlach. Oh, once the shoyel said the magic word shlach, meaning either he initiated the word or the shoyel responded with the word shlach. Once he said the magic word shlach, meaning make a halachic shliach, either one of your people will be my shliach, or one of my people, needless to say, will be my shliach. Then and only then, shilcho v'meiso chayev. Only if the if the shoyel said, "I'm making a halachic shlichus," it doesn't have to say, "I'm making a halachic shlichus," yeah. But once he said, "Be sholeach," make a shliach either with one of your guys or one of my guys, or responded to the mashil suggestion by saying, "Yes, do be sholeach." He said the word sholeach, something from the verb shin lamed ches. Then it's considered as if once it's in the hands of the shliach of the shoyel, as you said, then we say those people are agents of the shoyel because they're halachic shlichim, and therefore anything that happens on the way is going to be chayev because they became his long arm, the long arm of the shoyel, and anything that happens on the way is considered as if it happened in his domain. Let's just finish the Mishnah and then we'll review. The chen b'shor shemachzira. The same applies in a very mirror image kind of way on the way back, which means at some point, the amusement park's over. At some point, what happens? The shoyel, has to give back the cow. Some people say, as we saw in the previous sugya, that it's in the middle of the shlichus. Lo mishaneh. At some point, when the shlichus ends, right? The shlichus ends. Let's say it's ended prematurely. It ended before it was supposed to end. So then we say, when do we say that the shoyel is not responsible anymore? When do we say that his responsibility is over? Same thing the other way. Once the mash'il is requesting it back, the mash'il is requesting it back by what? Is requesting it by saying, be sholeach to me, back to me. I want my cow back through halachic shlichus, either by one of your guys, by one of my guys, exactly the same. Only then we say the shoyel is off the hook. But if the magic word shlach was not said by the receiving side, he just said, you know, give it to me, bring it to me, okay, bring it over, yeah, whatever. Anyway, then we say no. Then it's still under the achrayas of the shoyel, right? Because the mashil didn't press the button of send back by saying make a shliach. I'll give you an example, which is not a very good example, would help us understand it. And I said about Kiddushin. Chos and Kala under the chuppah, you have all the ingredients there. You have everything there. You have the weeping mother and the shviger and this and that, and you have photographers, and you have music that's too loud, white gown, everything is there, right? And both, standing, posing. Is she married? No. Yeah, even if you put a finger, she's not yet married. Maybe he's just giving her finger because, he wants to make her feel good. When is she married? Right, Mukudeshes Li. Only when you said Mukudeshes, then she's Mukudeshes, right? It's not exactly the same. This is Choshen Mishpat. It's not as stark, but I'm giving you a general idea. Sometimes one magic word changes the status. Only once the shoyel in the Reisha, in all the cases of the Reisha, the shoyel says shlach, make them shliach, either my guys or one of your guys, make them my shliach, then they work as his halachic agents, and only then it's considered to be under his authority, his responsibility of the shoyel, and if he dies suddenly, unexpectedly, even so, he is chayev. That is the Mishnah in a nutshell. Of course, you may ask a question. You can ask whichever question you want now. I'm asking a question. Why did we need three examples? His son, his shliach, and his eved, right? And we're going to see soon that eved is really not a simple story here. Yes. Okay. So as we said, there are three types of people. There are three people. Tzadites Amud Aleph. The Gemara begins here. Frag the Gemara, we spoke about the son, the Eved, and the Shliach. Frag the Gemara, Biyad Avdo Chayav. In other words, it's all very nice that, what was one of the scenarios? The Shoyel is Kilu taking over and saying, it is one of your workers, one of your guys, one of your sons, they're bringing the cow, but I am now making him my Shliach, right? So Mimela, the shoyel is chayv right away, and anything that happens on the way between the Tulon Afakim would already be the responsibility of the shoyel. Wait, it's all very nice for his son and his stam friend or maybe a worker. I can decide that your son is my shliach. Why not? I want to borrow Tzvi's motorcycle. Yeah, I'll say your son came from America. Let him lend it to me, shlep it to me. I want to make your son my shliach for Vos Nish. It's a free person. Same thing, even for your worker that you pay 9 to 5. But biyad avdoi, how could that be? Yad eved ke yad raboy. Oy, oy, oy. That cannot be. The hand of an eved is like the hand of his master, as we saw recently, right? In other words, we said, eved is not a regular shliach for the good or for the bad. Remember, there were different nafkaminas. And eved doesn't have a personality of his own. Maybe personality, yes, but not halachic authority of his own. An eved of a person is like an extension of the person, right? In other words, as long as your eved is driving the car with a cow, your eved is the hemshech of you. I cannot take your eved and make him switch sides to be part of my shlichus because it's ki'ilu bayu. I cannot make you be shliach for me if you're both the mashil and the shoyel. You cannot be both mashil and a shoyel at the same time. Let me start this way. You cannot play both sides. You can't play both games being a mashil and a shoyel. That cannot be. You can have people in the middle who switch sides, and instead of working for the mashil, they're now being the shliach of the shoyel. But an eved is mamish like part of the body. It's like a body part, halachic body part of the owner, of the master. So I, the shoyel, cannot make him be my shliach. It cannot be. I'll give you a halachic example. Eruv Tavshilin, your married children are coming to be with you for Yom Tov, and you want to be mezake. You want to be makne, make them be the owner, right? Of what? Of the chicken and the egg and the thing, right? Now, what do? You can't just make hagba on their behalf because you're makne it to them. You can't be both makne and koine. You can't be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde together. You have to have another person, yeah, another independent person like your teenage son, and say you represent the other party. But yet you cannot be both makne and koine. You can't be both mashil and shoyel. And since the eved is part of the mashil, he can never be part of the shoyel. Even if the show says that chai v'kayim 10 times, he's my shliach. He can't be your shliach. He's mamish physically part of the mashil. That's the question. Answers the Gemara, two answers, Machlokes Avu Shmuel. Answer number one, Omo Shmuel, Lukimta, not a very hard Lukimta, Eved Ivri. Who told you Eved is Eved Knaini? Eved Ivri, Deloy Kani Legufe. Nice and simple. Quick, short and sweet. Eved Knaini doesn't have his own entity Bechlal, and Eved Knaini is part of the person, of the owner. You can't make an Eved Knaini. I can't say your hand is mine. No, your hand is your hand. Eved Ivri, is a ganze choshev guy. Eved Ivri, his body is not Bechlal owned by the owner. He's actually a very glorified worker, Eved Ivri, right? Eved Ivri has his own halachic and financial domain separate, and he works for who? For Mr. Mashil. Of course, I can say your Eved Ivri for the 2 hours ride from Tula to Ofakim will be my shliach, will be my long arm, my shliach, and that's going to work very nicely. And a chinami, had it been Eved Knaini, I wouldn't be able to play that game. And Eved Knaini, then what? Anything happens in the way will still be under the authority of the mashil. Eved Ivri, I can kilu take over and move him to my side, switch him to my side, make him my shliach. That's Shmuel. Rav Omar. Rav's answer is a little bit more complicated, and there are two ways in the Rishonim how to explain it. Rav Omar, afilu tema be'eved knaini, even if you talk about an Eved Knaini, we could say the Mishnah is talking about Eved Knaini. Naisa ke'omer le akisha b'makel v'itovoy, which means it's considered as if listen to the word, as if, not really, as if the shoyel told the mashil, hit it with a stick until it's going to come to me. What does that mean? There are two explanations. There's Rashi, Tosfos, and the Ritva explains Rashi. Tosfos says, Akisha b'makel, that basically Akisha b'makel is it's Tosfos asking about Shela b'baylim. Very good. Okay. Tzvi, your question, by the way, is coming now, and it's in the third Tosfos, but I'm going to relate to it later. Okay, very good. Okay. Says the Tosfos like this. Says Tosfos, what's pshat in Akisha b'makel? I don't know if you remember. One of the ways of pulling an animal, and how do you coin it? How do you start sheila? By pulling, like a kinyan. Now, to hit the beima with a makel, don't worry, it doesn't hurt the beima. When you hit the beima with a stick and it moves along, it's like another form of meshicha. So basically, one simple answer is, if the shoyel says, I want you to hit it in the makel, I'm asking you to do kinyan meshicha for me. And achinami, he's not my shliach. Your Eved is not my shliach. He's not my shliach. But lemaisa, very good. Since I initiate and I say, let him bring it and do the physical meshicha for me, and I'm the one verbalizing, make a meshicha. Now the meshicha has to be done into a simta, into a small street, not into a big street, because in a big street there is no meshicha. Remember in Bava Basra, ayin something, lemaisa, it's just a technical meshicha. The Ritva doesn't like it. The Ritva gives another answer. And he says, no, the Ritva has a whole Torah, it cannot be Mashiach. The Ritva says something interesting. He says, there's a loch in Masechta Kiddushin, if I tell you, listen, I want to play a prank, or I have some interest here, throw $100 to the sea, and I'm telling you, I want to make a show, Ben Azmanim, throw $1,000 to the sea, make yourself, lose it, and what? And I'll compensate you. So I have to compensate you. Even though I didn't do any kinyan, but just by verbalizing such a strong thing, I said, lose your money, throw it in the garbage, in the new garbage cans here in the street, and what? And I'll pay you back. So I have to pay you back. Now, when the shoyel says, take it with your Eved, and Avodim are not trustworthy. Avodim, 99% of the cases, are liars and thieves. If I say, send it with your Eved to no man's land, all the way from Atula to Ofakim, basically I'm saying, I'm assuming responsibility. I am the one who's sending into the wilderness. I don't know what David's going to do with that. When I'm asking you to send it to such a wild goose chase, that alone shows that I'm taking responsibility. That's a Ritva's very unique shot. But whatever way you see, either Tosfos or the Ritva, if the person, the shoyel, initiated, the Eved should do such an action, the Eved is not my shliach. Your Eved can never be my shliach, is a knaini. But technically, there was either kinyan meshicha, starting from me. Very nice what you said. I'm the one verbalizing and saying, I pressed the button saying, let the Mashiach happen through Eved or through, I don't know, UFOs, Loch Patli what. Or the fact that I'm the one initiating should go out into no man's land, and I'm okay with that, I'm the one responsible. That alone, maybe the shoyel responsible means I'm a shoyel already. I'm the one who initiated that funny move. That's pshat. Now, Mesivi, we're going to attack Rav. Yeah, who's right, Rav or Shmuel? What do you think? Who's going to be winning? What? Shmuel, of course. It's social mishpat. And also, we're going to see the what? What do you mean? Yeah, when he said bi'adavdoi. No, only if he said his shliach. Yeah, if you're saying that you're asking if lechoira it's like Meshicha, who cares if I made it shliach or didn't make it shliach? Very good, very good. I hear the question. It's a good question. If it's a technical thing, the Meshicha was done by me, then lechora, who cares whether he said shliach or not? Could be it's one of the reasons why the Ritter didn't like this pshat, by the way. That could be. That could be. Only when I say shliach, that shows that I'm really responsible for that in between matzav of being in the wilderness with some crazy Evid. If I didn't say shliach, then it's time. I say, okay, do what you want. I'm not taking responsibility because I didn't say the word shliach. I think that's pshat. Weiter. Meisivi, a question attacking Rav. Ashoyel haporo, somebody borrowed a poro, good. V'shol choloi biad bnoi biad shluchoi chayev. If the shliach sent it in the hands of what? The son or the shliach, and he demanded it as shlichus, who did? The shoyel said, make your son or your shliach my shliach, then he's chayev, right? The shoyel is the one who said the magic word shliach. Well, anything that happens now is my responsibility. Biyad avdoi potu. If he said, make your eved my shliach, it doesn't work because the other person's eved can never be a shliach. Excuse me, our Mishnah said that an eved can be the shliach or similar of the shoyel. Answers the Gemara, simple. According to Shmuel, it's very easy to answer, reconcile the Mishnah and the Brisa. Masnisin be'eved ivri, Brisa be'eved knaini. Delicious, delicious Shmuel. Eved ivri, the Mishnah is eved ivri. Eved ivri can switch sides. He's not so meshuba to his owner, and therefore, if I say that your Shlomo, if you have an Eved Ivri, I say your Eved Ivri will temporarily be used for my services, be my shliach. It's absolutely fine, and I'm responsible. And if he dies, I'll be chayiv as a shoyel. And the Brisa spoke about Eved Knaini, and I said your Eved Knaini will be my shliach. No such thing. Yeah, Shmuel does believe in all this business of Rav of no. It's either shliach or not shliach. Your Eved Knaini cannot be my shliach because he's your hand, he's you. Yeah, very good. El Rav Kasha. According to Rav, it's difficult, right? Because Rav said, whichever the Eved is, even Eved Knaini, technically, the Shoel, am the one initiating Meshicha, or I'm the one who's willing to be in no man's land with my responsibility. So Rav cannot give you the difference between Eved Knaini and Ivri. He doesn't believe in that. So according to Rav, we have a stira between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Rav, no. Now Rav makes a tweak, he tweaks his pshat from before. And this needs a bit of understanding. Lo tema nasa omarlei, ela ema be omarlei hakish b'makel v'itovoy. That answers your question too. Let me explain. What we said up until now, and I stressed it before, when I, the shoyel, says to you, the mashir, let's say, yeah, I want to borrow your stuff, and you have your Eved, Knaini, or Ivri, and I say, send it with the Eved as my shliach. Once I said the word shliach, it's as if I said, hit it with a stick, and it's going to come to me. I'm willing to take responsibility over the journey in between. I didn't really say it. Na'asakeh. It's as if he said it. That's what we said before. No, then we had a question. Says no. Ema, now we're changing gears and we say, which means not that anytime I say make him shliach, automatically it's a shliach as if v'chulei, but we make a ukimta, meaning we really explain the Mishnah, we qualify, that's what I said in English, we qualify the Mishnah to be talking about a case that he didn't just say shliach, he actually said I want you to hit it with a makel. I want you to actually, the Eved should hit, come, bring it. And I'm responsible because of that. And then I'm responsible. But if I just said, bring it along, be mishaleach, send it with your Eved Knaini, then we say no. Then we say it's not considered as if I said a kisha b'makel. In other words, one sentence out in English, you have to speak it out. If you spoke it out and you said, I'm responsible, I'm telling you, Mr. Eved Knaini of Reuven, of the Mashil, you should hit, bring. Then I'm responsible to anything that happens in between. But if I didn't specify it and I said, okay, your Eved should be my shliach to bring it, that's not good enough because I didn't show specifically that I'm responsible. I'm mistakenly, erroneously making your Eved my shliach. And that's the answer, according to Rab, between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Again, in the Mishnah, the person was specific and he said, I want your Eved to physically hit the animal, bring the animal, pull it. I want your Eved to pull. I'm asking him to do a physical action, which means I'm responsible of anything happening all the way. And then I'm responsible as a shayel, and that's the Mishnah. The Brisa spoke about a person who was not specific, and he said, okay, make your Eved Knaini Shliach. Goodbye, you have to now cook an egg. Make your Eved Knaini Shliach. Without specifying, you're talking shtuyot. You can't make someone else as Eved Knaini Shliach, and we don't say you meant as if. No meaning in shmeaning. You didn't speak it out, you're talking nonsense, because you can't make an Eved Knaini Shliach, and that's what the Brisa says. De Itma, the following Brisa will now explain it to us and kind of prove what Rav says. Hashileni paroscho. A person asked his friend, please lend me your cow. Tzadites Amud Aleph, welcome. Tzadites Amud Aleph, but Metzia Tzadites Amud Aleph, we're about 10 or so lines from the top of the page. Hashileni paroscho, lend me your cow, please. Gomerle biadmi. Who should I send it with? I have workers, I have sons, I have Meshorsim, I have Chayes HaKodesh. Gomerle, and he told him, Akisha b'makel v'tovoy. Oh, and he said it specifically, hit it with a makel. Even if he said it to the person himself. Wow. Even Akisha b'makel, even he says it to the owner. Unbelievable. Why? Because it's not shlichus. It's not shlichus. Whoever does it, even the owner himself now, the mere fact that I initiated the journey and I specified I'm okay with Akisha b'makel, I'm okay with the dangerous trip taking place all the way from your house to mine, and I'm initiating that Meshicha according to Tosfos. By the way, it's not a brisa. Interesting. It's not a brisa. It's a memo. It's Rav. Once it's out of the reshus of the domain of the mashil, it left the house in Metula and died, 2 meters later. Chayev. The shoyel is chayev. The shoyel is chayev. Why is the shoyel chayev? Because the shoyel is the one who specifically said, I'm the one who initiated the journey. I'm the Waze. I'm the GPS. I'm saying I'm okay with you, Makish, taking it. And it's as if either I pulled it myself or as if I told you, you take the risk and I'm responsible according to the Ritva. But if I just said generally, send a shliach, Eved Knaini cannot be a shliach, even according to Rav, and therefore Rav came out, unscathed from the question. Okay, so now let's summarize. Definitely, if it's an Eved Ivri, kol sheken if it's someone's son, someone's worker, someone's friend, someone's wife has their own financial entity, and I send, make your wife, son, daughter, safta, worker, secretary, shliach, my shliach. Of course, they're another shliach of me. I'm the shoyel. A second that he dies, a minute after left home, he died, it's already under the shoyel, no question. The question is only about Eved Knaini. Shmuel says, no. Your Eved Knaini can never be my shliach, even if I dance hula hoops and I, whatever I do, salta ba'avir. If I say, you have an Eved Knaini, let's say, I know Evodim Knaini nowadays, I don't think much, your Eved Knaini will be my shliach, it's an oxymoron. Your Eved Knaini is yours, and therefore I can never make him my shliach, and therefore if he dies on the way, I, the shoyel, will not be responsible. That's Shmuel. Thus he says Shmuel argues on Rav. Masha'en Ken, Rav says no. Rav says even be'evid knaini, if I specified and I said I want the Evid Knaini or even the person himself, I want somebody from your party to pull it along. I'm mamish planning and I'm saying I want them to hit it, bring it to the open, and then come to my house. According to the Ritva, I took responsibility over that dangerous road with a schwindler of a ganav of an Eved. I said, throw your $100 to the sea and I'll pay you. Same thing. I said, I'm responsible for the journey. It's kilu, that's what I said, kimat. And therefore I'm responsible, even though it's your Eved, even if it's you yourself. Now, you're asking about Sheila Bebaylim. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, Metzia Hashem. I want to have a better look in Tosfos. So far, so good? Yeah, 5 minutes? You're on the phone. Okay. Name a Messiah. Now we're really on the go here. Frag the Gemara, suggest the Gemara. Excuse me. Name a Messiah. Can we say that the following Braisa is going to be a support for Rav's opinion, for Rav's idea that if you say, hit it with a makel, bring until it gets to my place, and it's kilo, I'm responsible, then the show is responsible. Let's see if the Braisa follows what Rav says and supports Rav. Ashileni Poroscho, Mr. Shoel, you know where he lives, asked Mr. Mashil, can you lend me your cow, please? Vomerle beyadmi, well, who should I send it with? Vomerle, and he told him, the Shoel, responding back to the Mashil, Ekisha b'makel v'hitovoi, please hit it with a makel. Hit it with a makel. By the way, hitting with a makel also means that the cow may go all kinds of directions. You're not pulling it with a leash. You're just hitting it, assuming it's going to follow the right path. You understand why we use that lotion? It's more dangerous and I'm taking more responsibility. Akisha b'makel, just hit it and you hope it's going to go the right direction until it reaches me, which means I'm taking responsibility that it's not going to go straight to other directions. Akisha b'makel v'yitovoi, alai, nice Israeli guy, smoch alai, smoch al smoch, it's my cow. I mean, I'm borrowing the cow, I'm taking responsibility. Keven shiotzes mershus mashil, the mesa. The second he left the reshus, the domain, the house of the mashil, and he died. Chayev, who's chayev? The shoyel, because the shoyel took responsibility. Oh, look, here's a brisa of who? Seemingly the brisa is exactly what Rav said. Maybe Rav is right against Shmuel, because Shmuel doesn't believe in this entire concept. What? Woo! Where's the Chiddush? Shmuel argues with that. Shmuel argues. He didn't say I'm responsible. I made a mistake here. He didn't say the word I am responsible. And therefore, according to Shmuel, it's not going to work. He said, hit it with a makel until it's going to come. Rav interprets this as taking full responsibility. Shmuel doesn't. Shmuel argues. This is the beginning. So that supports Rav. Omar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi is now ruining the fun. Rav Ashi is now telling us, no, this is not necessarily supporting Rav. Rav may be right, but it's not a support for him. You know, the story over here is, there's a specific scenario here in the Mishnah of the Brisa. Which means the two chatzeros of the Shol and the Mashil, not only one was in Metula and one in Ofakim, one was right adjacent to the other, and there's nowhere in between. In other words, the chotzer of the mashil, of the owner, was directly adjacent and connected to the chotzer of the shoyel, and therefore the chimeshal chalo vaday lehosam ozlo. When he's going to send it from point A to point B, there's nowhere else to go. It's not the other side of the street, across the street, like Ahavat Shalom in my house, but rather it's like, in a room, straight to an outer room, there's nowhere else to go. And therefore, there's no risk taken at all. In such a case, even Shmuel would agree that what? There is no risk taken bichlal. Mimela, of course, he is taking responsibility. There is no responsibility. But let's say between my house and yours, there is a road, and the animal can go to all kinds of directions and start running and charging and eating the grass all the time and do other things. Maybe then, enochinami, I'm not taking responsibility. Like Shmuel, not like Rav. Here it's mamish, one adjacent, one punkt right next to the other, nowhere else to go. Therefore, there is no bichlal risk taking. When there's no risk taking, then of course, then the shoyel is taking the risk. The shoyel says, bring it to me, it's going to go, and and therefore I'm responsible. Now you should ask your question. What's the chiddush? Obviously, if it's straight from your house to my house and there's no risk whatsoever, right? Yeah, then what's the chiddush? Of course, and then the shoyel is happily saying, yeah, bring it from you to me. He's billion% sure there's nowhere else to go in between. It's two apartments, one behind the other, right? Mamash Azoi, two chatzas, one behind the other. Everything else is surrounded by thick walls. Avada. Of course, in such a case, the shoyel is taking responsibility because there is no responsibility. It's going to go straight ahead. Answers the Gemara, lo tzricha. There is a chiddush here. The ika gazyoso, or some say zavyoso. In other words, the house or the chotzer of the mashil is not a nice square little chotzer like like a pen that you imagine, but it has a lot of nooks and crannies and all kinds of corners and all kinds of places where the animal can hide. Mao the tema. Why one would argue the tema? Lo sam chedaite. Maybe the shoyel is not really taking responsibility, is not samichdas, is not sure the animal will make it from the mashil's house to his house. Dil makaima hosom veloy asya ozlo lehedya. Maybe the animal is going to stubbornly hide kaima hosom in one of the corners, in one of the, how horses ranch is. Yeah, all kinds of corners and places and this. It's a messy place, right? So maybe one of the corners is going to keep hiding. It's not going to walk lehedya straight ahead. Kamash malan the samchedaite. Kamash malan that as long as we don't have a real road, a real no man's land between the two reshusim, yeah, in such a case, when we have the shus mashil and straight ahead, right adjacent, right ahead of it, connected is a shus of the shoyel, then although in the mashil's house could be like a small cow and it's going to start stubbornly standing there for 2 hours stuck in some silly corner and maybe it's never going to make it, or I don't know, and I already need to work, maybe havamina that is not soimichdas, kamash malan is soimichdas and he is taking responsibility. Yeah, you can't say I meant and I thought. He took responsibility because as long as the two reshusim are mamash adjacent, Yomi said, send it to me, and I'm responsible the second it leaves your home and reaches mine automatically. And we don't say it's going to go to the corner. But according to Shmuel, the reading of the Mishnah we're reading like Shmuel now all the time. If there is the Mashil, then there's the road. It doesn't have to be Metula and Eilat. It could be, Lachish 38 to Lachish 34, Lachish 32, whatever. Just one or two houses away, there's a little bit of no man's land in the middle. Could be that here the shoyel, just because it said hit it and bring it, doesn't mean hit it and bring it and I'm responsible. No, says Shmuel. I'm not telling you the other side. That's what's a chiddush. That's a chiddush. Shmuel says no. I meant technically bring it to me, but I don't mean to make it a shliach. No way. That's what Shmuel says. And Rav says no. When I say bring it to me and hit it without pulling, and it's a busy street with distractions, and the person may not be responsible, the one schlepping it, and I'm still saying you should bring it, according to Rav, that means that I, the shell, assumed responsibility. And according to Shmuel, it doesn't mean that. And all is like Shmuel. There's no proof from the Brisa, because the Brisa could have spoken about adjacent places. But when there's an area of no man's land in the middle, that's up to Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, whether the shoyel took responsibility or did not take responsibility. Very, very good. That's only a question if it's a person himself or the Eved Knaini, which is an extension of himself. If it's a third party, like who? Like a Stam, any other person, then depends whether it said Shliach. If it said make him a Shliach, then he is responsible. If it did not say the word Shliach, he's not responsible. Everything is very good. Yes, I'm listening to your question. Right. Omar Rav Huna. New stuff, not very new, but now we're going to discuss the idea of when does a she'ela period, a she'ela term actually begin. So we were brainwashed already, so to speak, and we know that Meshicha is what does the trick, and it's true according to most opinions. Just like you have Meshicha when it comes to what? To Kinyan, right? We can talk a lot about you selling me your stuff. They just talk until maybe Mois, Mishapora, but when I did Meshicha, that's when it's really a point of no return, it's a done deal. So to by She'ela, Yeah, we're not discussing now the right. So the Rabbanon, but the Sheila, once it pulled the, let's say, cow into my domain, then I am the Shoel, and I am responsible for what? For anything that's going to happen, and also to feed the animal. Remember, we saw that a few times, to feed the animal. And also, I want to preface it, and that people don't know that. Let's say we made an agreement. This is something very important for us, Shomer Torah people, to know. Let's say I had a proper agreement with a neighbor, and I'm not joking, this is very serious. I had an agreement with a neighbor. It doesn't mean that we're adim there and lawyers and Toin Rabbani, but let's say if the neighbor and I agreed that his drill will be borrowed, lent to me for a week from Yom Kippur until Erev Sukkot. Yeah, when you need the drill. And we mamish made an agreement. You know, there were adim there. Yeah, and really, yeah. Now, okay, you tell me, yeah, for 3 days, the drill, I borrowed it for 3 days and it was agreed. In the middle of the second day, he says, I'm sorry, Kiva, I need the drill back now for 2 hours. Does he have the right to do that? Does he do me a favor? No, he doesn't. Very good. You guys know your stuff. No. Although it's for free, but it's agreed upon. So that's another nafkamina. As long as we spoke about the drill and we discussed it and all very nice, he can return, revoke, and take it back. But once I did Mashicha to my house, then the She'ela period officially started, and he says, I need it now for a couple of minutes. I'll say, no, even though there's no money, but agreement is agreement. Yeah. So there are few nafkaminas. If it's a cow or a dog or a cat, I have to feed it. I'm responsible that if anything's going to happen, besides Mesa Machmas Malacha, I'm Chai Be'oinsin. And thirdly, he cannot just decide in the middle that he's taking it back, right? So that all these magical things happen once Meshicha was done to the item. So, and that's true what I'm telling you. However, we're going to see an opinion now that argues on it. Omar Ravuna. Ravuna argues on it. Says Ravuna, a shoel kardoi mechaveroi. A person borrowed an axe from his friend. Boka boy knoi. Boka raton. Boka is what is to split. He split the woods with it. Yeah, he chopped, thank you. He chopped the wood with it, knoi. Then it became his, not his, for she'ela, meaning the first time he used it, that's the shooting point, that's the starting point of the she'ela. Yeah, not the Mashicha. Once he used it first time, then it's called the formal shoyel. Loi bokaboy, loi knooi. If he did not yet use it for the first time, he did not yet chop the wood with it, then he wasn't yet koina, he did not yet become the official shoyel. Frag the Gemara, lemai. We know that being a shoyel, as I just proved to you, has all kinds of nafkaminas. If you want to tell me for oinsin meaning what? Once I'm a shoyel, anything that's going to happen to the axe or to the cow or to the computer or the drill, I'm chayiv, even b'oinsin. Is that what you're telling me? Are you arguing in the big concept? And you're telling me that chiyuv oinsin only starts when you use it and not prior to that when you pulled it? If so, maishna poro the mishas she'ela, right? Why? Poro, yeah, a cow, we assume now he agrees. Ravuna agrees with a cow once you, what? Mishas she'ela, once you borrowed it, meaning pulled it, then you chai ba'oinsin. So the same should be regarding an X. Ela lechazoro. To lechazoro means that the mashil can go back on his words and regret the whole deal, which means boka boy, once the person hit it, in other words, one person used it, the shoyel used it for the first time and chopped the wood with it for the first time, loy matzi hodar be mashil. What lo matzi? Cannot. The mashil cannot, what hodar? Return, revoke, change his mind. The mashil may not, is not unable to go back. Once you used it once, the shoyel, once I used my neighbor's drill, what? In the sukkah, he can't go back on the deal, not for 1 minute. Loy boka boy, matzi mashil hodar be. As long as he did not use it, then the mashil may go back on his word, which is interesting. So when it comes to my responsibility as a shoyel, the Mashiach does the job. When it comes to him changing his mind, it's still a point of, yes, return, as long as they didn't use it for the first time. Yeah, this is all Takonos Chazal. He believes this is how Chazal viewed it. As long as I, the shoyel, didn't actually use it for the first time, the mashil cannot in my door and say, no, I'm not interested, give it back to me. That's what Ravuna says. We're going to explain why later, but that's Rav Huna's Ashkofa. Now, Upliga de Rabbi Ami. Now he argues on Rabbi Ami. That statement of Rav Huna that said that only usage does the trick of what? Or not being unable to return and not anything before that, not the Mashiach, that argues on the following statement of Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami. Amashil kardom shel hekdesh mo'al lefitoy v'sano shaboy, which means a person is doing me'ila, and me'ila is always by mistake. Let's say in your house you have an X, and you forgot, from some reason, you're not aware of the fact that this X, you have 5 X's in your house, yeah? One of them is what? Is Hekdesh. It belongs to Beis HaMikdash. You're Makdish it, and you forgot. You didn't know this is the one of Hekdesh, and it doesn't belong to you. It's Kodesh. You're not allowed to use it. What are you supposed to do with it? Redeem it and give the money to Beis HaMikdash. Maybe give the X itself to the Beis HaMikdash. Whatever. Holy, holy, holy. Mistakenly, what did you do? You're very nice with a big smile on your face. Erev Sukkot, you lent that kardom belonging to Hekdesh to your downstairs neighbor. Then mo'al lefitoy v'sano shaboy. Now, the amount of money you owe Hekdesh, yeah, you owe Hekdesh money. What do you do in case of Me'ila? You have to pay the principal money plus v'chamishis eresafolom, and you bring a korban Me'ila. Wait a second, korban osham. How much? If I lent something to someone, I didn't gain anything. Maybe I'm a naughty boy. I should be careful. So sorry, but I didn't make money on the cheshbon of Hekdesh. The answer is no, because when you lend money, imagine yourself, you would be a neighbor that never, ever, ever, ever lends anything to anybody. You have a big red sign on your door. Nobody borrows anything from me, and then people ask then they ask about you in shidduchim. They always ask the neighbors. I do. Yeah, they ask the next door neighbor. The next door neighbor is going to start saying they're a nice family, but they're terrible. So, in other words, you enjoy when you lend things to other people, and the other person is what has hano from you. You enjoy the fact that you maintain good relationship, and also better chances he will lend you something else later, right? When you give to other people, sounds like a schmaltzy statement, but it's true. When you give to other people, you gain something. You even gain something monetary. In other words, there is a certain amount of potential money you gain over here, called Toivasano, that you know that you lend now. Yeah, in other words, how much would you pay to maintain good relationship with the neighbors? Yeah, let's say I would tell a guy, you want to not lend anybody. How much would you pay to maintain good relationship with them? You would pay something. Yeah, a person would pay 50 shekels a month to maintain good relationship. Everyone's going to love him. So that amount of money is what he owes Hekdesh. Now the big chiddush comes now. Wow, which means once the X left the reshus, the domain of the owner of the X, which is really the Makdish, which is holding X belonging to Hekdesh, he left from domain A to domain B in a halachic way, and the she'ela started. Now that X doesn't belong to Beis HaMikdash anymore. Wow. Why? It was Yoitze Lechulin. Who? The Makdish, which is the Mash'il, the one holding the X and mistakenly give it to him, he has to pay Hekdesh. But the actual X, once it left his domain, and he's like a shliach, not a shliach, he's kol echad yisad begaza derechmona, you say, he's like the ambassador of Hekdesh. Once it left his domain, it doesn't belong to Hekdesh anymore. He would have to pay the money to Hekdesh, but the Hekdesh itself is not the owner of the X anymore. Why? Because once it left my hands and went to someone else's hands, that is a form of Me'ila. I want to tell you something important. Me'ila, there are 2 ways of Me'ila. Either using something of Hekdesh or transferring the Hekdesh item to another Rishus. That Kilu, the Hekdesh is popping out, boom. It's not Hekdesh anymore. Now you owe money to the Hekdesh. But the X itself doesn't belong to Hekdesh anymore because it changed hands to a new domain, to a new Rishus. And therefore, now the question is why? Frag them, wait a second. Did the other guy use it already? That we say, yeah, he's allowed to use it. He's going to ask the rabbi, am I allowed to use the X? Belongs to Hekdesh. My wife's going to go crazy using, yeah, no problem, says the rabbi. No problem. Once it left the hands of the original person, it's his headache. But the X itself, transferring hands, even as Ash'olo. Ash'olo is a bit like a Kinyan. Now it's in the hands of the Shol. It's a new hands, new domain, new place, new Rishus. It's not hekdushes anymore. Go ahead, build your sukkah with the X or do whatever, chop your wood, do whatever you want. Now the question is why? What did Rav Huna say? When does it really start belonging to the shoyel? Once he uses it, not once he took it. If according to you, to Rav Huna, as long as you didn't use it first time, it's not really yours as a shoyel. Amai moal. Why is it called meila? It didn't really change hands because he said it only changed hands when he used it first time. The amai chaver mutal v'kebel lechatchila. Why should his friend be allowed to use it lechatchila? Nehadre, quickly, it is revocable. According to Rav Huna, when there was meshicha but not yet usage, at that point it's halfway through, but it's still revocable. Quickly give it back to the original owner. Veloy likne, don't have the kinyan of chopping the wood and using it by and coin it by using it. Velolimo, don't have meila. Elamai. You see, not like Rav Huna. You see, Rav Huna argued on Rabbi Ami. Again, Rabbi Ami said once an X was changed hands to the mashil to the shoyel, boom, it's a new domain, new place, even to the level of meila, which is very severe. It's out. Hekdush Rishus was kilu not nifde, was poikeya. Boom, popped out. It's all puffed up. And mimela, that's it, without using it. Rav Huna definitely wouldn't say that. According to Rav Huna, only once he used it, the shoyel, then we'll say it changed hands, point of no return, and now that's it. The X is now chulin in the hands of the shoyel. That's one. If you don't mind, let's read one more. And by the way, before we continue, I don't like to say too much to continue and go without explaining. You can understand Rav Huna's idea, because Rav Huna will tell you like this. It's all very nice, and Meshicha is always very important, And Meshicha is also important to him for Chiyuvim. But a shoyel, why is a shoyel chai bo'insin as opposed to anybody else? Video, very good. A shoyel's main point is no. So therefore, we can understand Rav Huna that says as long as the shoyel wasn't nene, as long as the shoyel didn't use it, and his old vort is using it, he didn't take it for the X to be on the dining room table, for the enjoyment of his wife to look at. He uses the X, he took the X to use it. So usage is the name of the game. As long as he didn't use it, then we say it's irrevocable and the other person can take it back. I would really like to have the special note, just finishing the Amud, if you don't mind, one more minute, and then we will continue and hearing questions. Another opinion that Rav Huna argued with is Rabbi Lozo. Dom Rabbi Lozo. Rabbi Lozo says, "Kederch shetiknu meshicha belokuchois, kach tiknu meshicha b'shoimrim." Rabbi Lozo says, for all intents and purposes, not only for the achrayus, also for revoking and regretting the deal, just like Chachamim were metaken meshicha belokuchois, meaning what? Midoraisa, says Rabbi Yochanan, money buys you metaltalim. Remember, if I give you cash midoraisa, metaltalim are yours. Rabbanan established that really there has to be Meshicha. The item only belongs to the buyer when he pulls it to his own domain. Same thing by Shoimrim. Midorabbanan, not Midoraisa. A Shoimer is only considered the real Shoimer for all Chiyuvim and also for being a point of no return. That's the point. That the Baalim cannot regret once he pulled it even before he used it, not like Rav Huna. Using is not the point. No, it's Meshicha. Meshicha only once he pulls it. No, already when he pulls it, the shoyel, already at that point, the mashil can go jump in the lake, as they say, cannot revoke it. Tanenami hachi, Kishem, where Bryce that supports her blozer, Kishem shetikn Meshicha b'lekuchas, kach tikn Meshicha b'shoimrim. I have much more to say also regarding the Rabbanon Doraisa, and there's much more here in Tosfos, which we're going to see tomorrow, Meretz Hashem. Tomorrow, Erev Tisha B'Av, we're meeting Meretz Hashem. It's before Chatzos, right? So see you tomorrow. If Mashiach comes Thursday, hopefully I think Mashiach will be happy that we have a shiur. And in any event, we're meeting tomorrow in Meretz Hashem and Sunday. Ben Azmani, we're on, except for certain days, maybe not. But most of the times I hope to be on. Depends on my 8-year-old son. He runs my schedule. Okay, when it comes to Ben Azmani. Thank you very much. Questions are welcome. Thank you very much for everyone in YouTube. For any time in Kol Lashon. Thank you. Great day and Yeshua Shlema.